Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have a very special guest today. Hello, Dana.
Hey, how's it going, Ryan?
It's very good to see you again. You are
Thank
with
you.
Ready at
You
Dawn
too.
Studios. They are working on this game, The Order 1886. First off, we chatted with you guys last night. You have quite a few exciting things to say.
Yeah, no, last night was great for us.
Talk about the Lycan threat, man.
We got to show that what was lurking behind the fog all the time was our Lycans, which was a pretty cool reveal for us.
Cool.
In our world, the Lycans are these kind of abomination of nature creatures that are very intelligent and super ferocious. So they're probably the most formidable opponent that the Knights will ever go up against.
And previously, we haven't really seen that enemy behind the fog. You guys did a lot of stuff with the rebellion force, kind of this insurgence that's going on against the monarchy. So where was the origin of this sort of supernatural element to the story?
Well, basically, we thought about, if Arthur was going to have to actually assemble a group of characters who would, fight against evil, would it only be a human evil, or could we think of something that was a little bit more creative? And I think the Arthurian lore always was interesting because, it was, filled with other things other than just man. So for us, it made sense to kind of come up with some lore that involved other creatures.
Cool. Well, I think everybody can tell from the trailers that you guys have showed that The Order is a very beautiful game.
Thanks.
I would like to make that assumption right now. Can you talk to us about how your technical team and the art team kind of tackle such a visually challenging medium like this, and especially on new hardware?
Yeah, I mean, on new hardware, there's always going to be some interesting challenges, but the PlayStation 4 is cool because, the graphical power, the memory bandwidth that we have, all those things allow us to also be artistically very free. And when we set out to make The Order, we knew, one of the things we wanted to do was really push the edge in terms of defining next-gen graphics. And so a lot of that involves new rendering techniques, lighting techniques. We use...
here we go. We can talk about it right now.
Right, it's playing right there.
We just missed it.
It's short. That was a brief glimpse into the game.
That was the teaser.
Yeah, but I mean, we employ a lot of techniques that have been used for movies for a long time, performance capture, facial capture, but ours runs all in runtime. We don't have any pre-rendered movies. All the stuff that you're seeing there that looks like what you would traditionally see pre-rendered, that's all live. So, I mean, that's a huge technical challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did all motion capture. So the things they were seeing in the teasers, the trailers that we've shown to the public, I mean, that stuff is motion captured. It has facial capture, voice capture. These are real actors. You guys aren't doing, CG, as you said, in this. I mean, that must have been kind of a big challenge.
It's cool. I mean, it actually lends a huge amount of character and authenticity to, the character that you play. But it also brings a lot of gameplay challenges in that most people kind of feel like games that are very fluid looking in terms of motion capture performance on in-game animations are less responsive. So we run hundreds of animations simultaneously, and we've been very meticulous about making sure that none of those things sacrifice the playability of it and the responsiveness. So control is very much at the forefront of what we think is important, but at the same time trying to figure out how to merge that with fidelity.
Awesome. What's it like? What's your reaction to working on PS4 and working with DualShock 4? I mean, how have you guys incorporated those new technologies into the game?
So far, actually, it's been surprisingly
good for
us. So far, so good. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, actually. I think coming off of working on PlayStation Portable, I think we were really anticipating it being a much bigger hurdle than it is, but the dev kits are great. The debugging software so far has been better than anything we've ever seen. So it's been good.
If people don't know, you guys worked on PSP games for quite a while. So you have a lot of experience with PlayStation platforms. This is kind of like a huge next-gen debut for you guys, which makes it all the more impressive because it looks really good.
Thanks. Yeah, for us, I mean, internally, the leap felt like just gigantic. We were like, how are we going to do this? But, at the same time, we knew that in our hearts, we weren't just a one console developer. We had a lot of ideas. We're very passionate about console games, and I think we took it upon ourselves as a big challenge, and we put forth our best effort, and we're really proud of it.
All right, awesome. I mean, the one weapon that I've actually played with recently is the thermite rifle, which you basically pepper these little pellets, and then you can ignite them with a flare. I mean, how does the team come up with stuff like that? Seems a little sadistic. Seems a little harsh.
Yeah, we basically come up with all sorts of crazy ideas and we see what sticks. One of the interesting things about the weapons that are making it into the order, though, are some of them are based on science, right? I mean, we have the Industrial Revolution and a lot of scientific discoveries going on at this time period. So starting there and trying to figure out what are the things that we could leverage to make weaponry is actually a really exciting exercise for our designers. And then, of course, when we put the power of PlayStation 4 tech behind it and art and effects and sound and make it amazing, it becomes something really gratifying.
It's the full package, man.
It's the full package.
Oh, I love it. So when you guys approach this project, like for you as a design team, what's sort of the order? The order that you guys go about doing things? Like when you start with design, are you starting with a script? Are you starting with art assets? Are you starting with musical cues? Like where do you guys get your inspiration from?
I mean, really early on, we had kind of a sketch of what the story was going to be and who these characters were. And that kind of motivated us to start thinking about what kind of a genre were we going to set the game in. And very early on, we settled in on being a third-person action-based game. And then it made sense to employ a lot of gunplay in it, so then it became very cover-heavy. And then the script was evolving simultaneously, and so it's this game of merging narrative with gameplay. And then eventually it starts clicking, and we realize this is very much a fusion of character work and narrative and gameplay. And so I think the seamlessness in our world.
Oh, that was the thermite rifle, right?
That was the thermite rifle, yeah.
I missed it again!
You missed that. I know. If they keep looping it, maybe we'll catch it eventually.
So, yeah, one thing else I wanted to talk about with you guys was for your story. There's a lot of Arthurian lore, but you've kind of put a little twist on it. It's your own sort of interpretation. How did you guys create a balance between what's recognizable to us as a collective and then also what is new and what you guys own, like in terms of creative energy?
I think it was really important for us to define our game and our story as its own, kind of its own thing. We didn't want to necessarily be held to everything that people knew about Arthurian lore, just verbatim. So we use that as the backstory for the characters, but setting it where it is and changing the history of the 1800s allows us to kind of create surprises and twists and things that people won't expect. And it was very important for us to make sure that it was a contemporary story that was very complex and layered and had very interesting characters, and wasn't something that people would just take it as it's going to be filled with knights and wizards and that kind of stuff. It's like,
which are cool.
Right, which are cool.
Sure.
We're changing your perception of what King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table may have been and what they could have evolved into.
So I just realized that during the course of this entire demo, we never really clarified that it's a third-person shooter until just like recently.
It's
so my bad. I should have explained. That's kind of interesting for me because the stuff that you guys worked on before is pretty different. I mean, it was still third-person content,
right?
But way different style of play. I mean, was that a challenge for your designers? Were you able to incorporate lessons that you guys learned from then and pulled it into this game? I mean, how'd that work for you?
It's a challenge. I think for us, we have a lot of passionate developers who are, gamers first anyway, and we play a lot of games. And so for us to kind of figure out how to put together a shooter wasn't like this impossible task that's never been done before. What gets really interesting about it is what do we do that makes it our third-person shooter, and how do we take elements that we love from other genres, like God of War is very much a hack and slash type of game. We want to have elements in the Order 1886 that also leverage what we've learned from making those games as well. So I think people are going to be surprised and excited at the marriage of shooter and other elements that we have in store.
Awesome. Dana, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. I think we actually have more Order content for everybody to check out. So thank you again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your show.
You too.
And let's take a look at more Order content.
I think the version of the Arthurian lore that we all are accustomed to is the ones we've seen in movies, the one we've read through La Mort d'Arthur, the most famous of the works that basically depicted Arthur, Galahad, and all the knights of the Round Table. What we did is that we went back a little bit further and went to the source of all of those legends, and the source came from a Welsh tale, from Welsh legends, and spin it the way we wanted to. All of that was a way to instill not only the names, but a little bit of the legend of Arthur into our characters. This Order of Knights was a direct result of this war that was going on. It wasn't the lore as you know it. The half-breeds are really a subspecies of what humanity becomes after a few centuries of evolving in a different direction. And there we find this struggle going on for supremacy, for survival. And it's only after the Industrial Revolution, after the change in the way they built weapons and all that, that finally humanity takes over and they finally have the upper hand in this war and push back against the half-breeds. The IP really existed as a world, as a big, big story and a big arc. When we brought it to life through this game, we wanted to find out a good place to actually set this game, find a setting not only in history, but also a setting geographically in the world. London was the perfect place. London was this mix of everything that was happening post-Industrial Revolution. We wanted to depict London the way people knew London. But at the same time, when you look at that skyline, give it a twist by having those watchtowers up, in the skyline or having airships in the sky. At the same time as people would believe our London, they would also question it by seeing that imagery. When approaching the PS4, we have to try and maximize everything we can out of it. But also, we're trying to maximize it without taking the player experience away from, the player. Ultimately, you could do a lot of different things with a lot of the hardware that's there, design-wise, input-wise. But for us, it was always important that the player didn't feel detached every time they did something like that. What feels natural? If it takes you away from the experience, we usually shy away from it. Of course, approaching a next-gen title, everybody has the dreams of what they want to do with it. We've talked about the filmic aspect of the game. We've showed it with the trailer. That was our way of telling the world and the players, like, hey, here's our vision of next gen. Here's our vision of what the Order is going to be, and here's our vision of what PS4 is going to basically be able to do. And we can't wait for the players to play this.